Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Untold, where we interview or have conversations with beautiful people and getting to know them, their achievements, their stories.
And today we're going to have a parent.
Yes.
We're going to talk about parenting, but in a different way. We're going to talk about picky eating.
Picky eating. We've had this guest before.
We did, Aljaber. She's
Yes.
amazing. That's her specialty. Okay.
And she requested this time to spread awareness and shed a spotlight on picky eating
From
and
a
the
personal
behaviors, from a
experience.
personal experience with her son. So we'll hear more from her, and let's have her right after this.
So we're back with our guest, and she's no stranger to
Yeah.
the Untold.
We've,
You've been here
yeah.
before.
A few
Aljaber,
weeks ago,
welcome
I
back.
believe. Welcome back,
And
clinical
it's always,
dietitian.
it's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really so happy to be here again with you.
This time we're going to talk about something different.
Yes, you wanted to talk about a very important topic. To
Personal.
you, personal topic. It's picky eating. So before we dive into it, let's get the definition of it from you and what it really means to be a picky eater.
The reason why I wanted to emphasize on it, it's very, very important, just to start working on picky eating. If the child starts to become picky, we need to work on it before it gets too difficult in order to, reverse that. So, and this picky eating habit will turn into extreme picky eater or problem feeder. So there are different definitions as well. I mean, terminologies. Okay, but when we get into that, it will be very difficult to go back, especially the first 2 years. It's very important. If someone notices their child that is picky, do not normalize it. My message here today, the reason why I want you to invite me is because it's not normal to be picky, because that will advance and become something more serious. So picky eater could be someone who doesn't prefer, for example, to mix their stew with their rice, or they don't prefer probably to 10 things. They don't prefer to eat it, but they used to eat it. But then for some reason, some influence, they don't want to eat it. However, the extreme picky eater, no, they go into tantrums, they go into really serious issues and even health issues later in the future, and they tend to not to have a whole food group, like the meat group, whole food group. For example, the bread and grains group, the whole group, they will eliminate, they will start avoiding. And they'll be afraid, they'll become anxious. So these things, so that's the reason why I want my messages, just don't normalize it, please. If a mother especially, if a mother feels like her child is not eating enough or complaining to the pediatrician for more than 3 times that their child is not eating, that's not normal. That's a red flag.
So you're facing the same problem with your kid, right? You have a little toddler. How
Yeah.
old is he?
Now he's 3 years and a few months.
So you think it's a little early to decide if he's a picky eater or maybe he's just...
No. When I actually knew, when I started working on it, it was too late.
Okay, too late at 3 years old?
No, we started when he was 2. Okay, and then we reached to a point where the meals were very, very stressful. He used to cry. He always pull our hands away from the dining table. We cannot have a peaceful time in order to have that actually happened even yesterday. Because he's either triggered because of the smell, because of the shape of the food or the texture, these kinds of things.
Some families would say, or some parents would say, it's just a phase. He'll go out of it. He's just being a kid. Just feed him, like give him what he wants,
Exactly.
How would you respond to that?
That's my message. Do not ignore these things. There are red flags. For example, if he starts crying, if your mealtime as a family is very stressful, if you have to prepare, especially mothers, I feel so sorry for other mothers going through the same thing like me, because they understand me, and I feel that we need the support, because it's very stressful that she has to prepare 3 or 4 different meals at the same time. To be honest, for me, for example, I hate kitchen. I hate preparing food, and the fact that I have to prepare 3 different meals, one for me, one for my husband, one for my son, it's very stressful. I have other things to do as well. I have to go to work. I have to take care of my son, bring him to his doctor appointments. That's very stressful. How am I going to spend time in order to prepare different meals? So that's also a red flag when you have to prepare a whole meal just for your son, or you have to create an area for eating just for your child. That's also very stressful.
Yeah, some parents would neglect that, and they would tell you, maybe you're just, you have to wait. Eventually he'll eat.
It will turn into negligence if they're not going to work on it as soon as it starts. If someone please, mothers, I hope they hear me right now. If someone tell you just a phase, it will go away later on after he passes 3 years. No, after 3 years, it's way more difficult.
It's permanent.
Exactly, up until 6 years, then you cannot do anything.
Yeah.
They'll grow up as extreme picky eater adults, and that's even.
How do you cure that?
I found a book just for adults, how to deal with their picky
eating adults.
Exactly, because it's very. Even you cannot socialize. Even I cannot socialize. I have to prepare his food with me every time I go. And sometimes some people, they feel they get so angry at me, why you're canceling events or plans and you're not gathering with us. It's not fun anymore because I have to take care of my son's diet.
Could you help us understand what exactly does your son actually like to eat? And
yeah.
How do you deal with it?
Yeah, like how many different things does he like?
I can just summarize it this way. He basically avoid all meat food group, meat and eggs.
Okay.
Also all grains and bread group.
Like it's easier to say what he eats then.
No, he cannot.
Is he vegan?
Even touch
at this age?
No, he cannot touch toast. He never touched it. He feels so scared to touch it.
Because it's fluffy?
Exactly. So here I noticed that there is something wrong. And then the occupational therapy sessions helped me in order to desensitize him, because it turned out that he has sensory processing disorder. So it's the sensory integration. It's how he processes things. He is exaggerating processing textures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is his meal the same every time then?
No, that here we'll get into something called aversion. If he eats, for example, banana every single day, he will hate it eventually. He will not eat it. And then we will go back again, and then his food items will go down. So basically, extreme picky eaters, they have only 10 or less than 10 food items they eat. Like 10 food items only. But I'm not talking about food groups on the hierarchy. 10 food items. But if they eat 25, that's 20 to 25, that's normal. They're just picky eaters.
Okay. So how many items does your son is
6
able to eat?
6
items.
He is
Exactly. That's due to other health issues as well. They influence even they negatively impacted the sessions that we've been working on.
Does he reject candy?
Yes, sweet and candy.
Yeah.
Maybe he like
certain stuff.
Chocolate. Yeah.
Chocolate is fine. Okay.
And thank you for bringing that to my attention. Also, they prefer certain brands over other brands.
Brand
How
loyalty.
would they recognize brands at this
Exactly.
age?
See, that's the reason why, because he has a problem with his sensory processing.
Like, if you just take the wrap off and just give it to him and it looks exactly the same, would he recognize it?
One of the techniques that we used in the occupational
Unless
therapy,
the brand is on the candy itself, like it's, printed in the candy.
First he was scared to approach anything that's not coming straight out of the pack.
Okay, he won't trust it.
Exactly.
He needs to open it himself.
Yeah, so
Smart kid.
Exactly.
Smart
Very.
No, even if he touch it, he's like, no.
That's not mine.
Today.
Exactly.
No, it just feels different. Yeah.
Sometimes just, no.
Oh, smelling as well.
Exactly, and that's the most difficult one. If he has any, because smell is sense. So if he's very intimidated by the smell, that's the most difficult one, because he will never be around you on the dining table. He will just, when he was young, it wasn't verbal, wasn't talking. So on that stage, he was just expressing it by avoiding food and crying or maybe gagging, for example. So that's how he used to avoid.
So, what were
his
the
meals.
early signs that you noticed?
I noticed at the beginning he cries a lot
Just
during
because what?
Maybe it's just
mealtime.
crybaby.
It's lunchtime and he's gonna cry
Exactly.
because he has to eat food.
Not only to eat. At the beginning, I did something wrong. I actually heard one of my family members advised me to force him to eat because he had an operation coming, and I don't want him. You know, I was so scared because I don't want his blood
Right.
iron go down.
Right.
Yeah, so I was so scared because he's about to go to get operated. So I didn't want him to be weak. I wanted him to be strong. So that's the last thing I heard and I actually implemented, and I used to force him, and that actually break the trust between me and him. I'm still up to this date. It's been a year, more than a year. He still doesn't trust anything that comes from my hand. I really regret listening to family members. Look, unless you hear it directly from a professional, I advise mothers, you go directly to a professional and hear it from them. Do not listen to any family member. Their experience is different. Maybe they were lucky by age of 3 years. Their children were okay and they grew out of it. Otherwise, please go to a specialist because that will actually can bring you 10 steps back.
Okay, so most parents would be, frustrated when you're trying to feed your child and he just screams and he goes into a tantrum and throwing things.
Exactly.
How would you react to that? How, like, you'll obviously be frustrated, probably be yelling at your kid.
Exactly.
With that?
Yeah.
It happened.
I think it'll make things worse.
Exactly.
Like, you have to eat this and you start screaming or yelling at them, that would just...
So here we need to understand the reason why. You must go check on your child. What's the reason behind it? Because, because you eat, we like to eat, right? So every time it's a very easy task.
Yeah.
That's to us. But to kids, especially with sensory processing disorder, they actually feel it's a huge task to them because it involves all your muscles, your facial muscles. It's a skill required to be learned. You have to teach them in order to eat.
But doesn't he get hungry then?
Yes,
right?
they can
Eating
actually.
out of hunger.
They could choose not to eat until the following day. Exactly, to starve themselves. They will not even feel it till the next day.
Yeah,
because
when you're being
because
stubborn.
he's anxious. When he's anxious and you force him to eat, okay, what will happen? That even you, for example, now as an adult, if you're anxious and really worried about something, your stomach will tend to crumble, and then you'll not feel hungry anymore, right?
I don't know.
You'll not feel like eating because you're anxious. The same thing happens with the
It happens
children.
when we have depression, I guess.
Maybe some
Depression makes
people
us stop eating.
the opposite. They
Yeah.
may eat, but
Or you
because
eat
they're
your
anxious,
feelings. Depends. It depends.
Your
because they're
Yeah.
anxious, because they're afraid to eat. They're afraid to touch certain texture. They will not feel they're hungry anymore. They just don't want to eat anymore. They stop eating.
So, okay, how would you deal with that on the table? What is the right thing to do?
Now, the very first thing I did, I took him to the pediatrician, transferred me to a occupational therapist, and then she did a questionnaire. We did a questionnaire. We ticked most of the checklists on the questionnaire. So, and then she found out that he has something wrong with his sensory integration. And then she planned sessions for him. We went into 16 sessions just to desensitize him.
What happens during the session?
In the session, it depends. This is how, here I found out, I was like, what's she doing? I feel like things were random. But when I went deep into the sensory integration and I went to courses with occupational therapist and a speech and language therapist, I found out that now it makes sense. Now I know why she used, for example, to squeeze him hard.
Squeeze him?
Yes, just
like with her
because he
hands?
was overwhelmed. So in order to
Like
calm
hug
him
him?
down, exactly, to calm him down, she would squeeze him, or she would put him on a ball,
Bouncy
exercise,
ball, big
exactly,
bouncy ball, yeah.
and then she bounce him for some time
Okay.
before we start the feeding session. Okay,
Interesting.
but unfortunately, we don't have many, or maybe none of the feeding therapists here in Kuwait. So I didn't have the chance to meet any here in Kuwait in order to help me with that. I had to learn, I had to study, I had to go and do more research, and with this in
We
this
don't
field.
have the field for it in Kuwait so far.
No, it's actually in other countries, it's either the speech and language therapist or a job or the occupational therapist job, or combined. It's a group work, teamwork.
Okay, we'll talk more about this, but we're gonna go on a quick break and we'll be right back.
We're back on the Untold, carrying on the conversation with Sarah Aljaber. So, our topic for today is
Picky eaters.
picky eaters, right?
And before the break, we were talking about, how to deal with child picky eaters.
Yeah.
So if you continue like the conversation, because I'm really interested to know
So
how
we got to
how
the
to deal
sessions,
with it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
After-
saw how they handle the child during the sessions. Does that work?
Look, at the beginning, no, because he had other issues like the adenoids and tonsils. We had to remove them. And that because of the respiratory issues, he's not breathing well at night,
yeah.
snoring, and these kind of things also affected and influenced his, the taste.
He already has his tonsils out?
Yeah,
That's
just
very
his-
young, because I had my when I was 6. That was very young.
But the earlier the better.
Oh, okay,
actually,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Okay.
the earlier the better.
It's easier,
You know,
probably.
I was even surprised. I've really felt so scared when they told me after this operation, food is just like medicine. If he's not eating, he will not recover. And
Made
my
things
whole
worse.
world
Yeah, man,
stopped
He needs the nutrients.
because he's not already. He has a really limited number of food eating. He like to eat crunchy food, and it's not allowed.
Crunchy
Have you thought about supplements for kids?
I give him
Okay.
supplements because otherwise
That's the
Oh,
only.
he accepts the supplements, though?
it's just like a juice, just 5 ml maybe or
Okay,
less.
Okay.
So it's fine.
But that's
fine.
not like a permanent solution. That's just
Exactly,
temporary.
that's not the permanent solution. We need to expose him more. There's something called rehearsal. Okay, we need to expose him more to the dining table. But because we're a small family, it's very difficult that I find gathering, and I just take advantage of the gathering and expose him more to desensitize him from the smell. He get to mingle with other kids. Even we were working on it on the school. The occupational therapist does some school visits. Or for example, come with me outside in order to see him how he react when we sit in a restaurant, for example.
yeah.
How would he react? How
does he react in a restaurant?
no, he just can't. He cannot just stay still. We just
Oh,
have to
that's,
give him.
That goes back to being a child.
No.
No. So a lot of
That's
children
extreme.
don't sit still.
No, that's extreme. He up until yesterday, he's literally pulling my hand. Just stand up, mama. Stand up. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's do
yeah.
something. But it's not that because he want to play or he wants something.
It's
No,
to
he
avoid
just
this.
exactly he want me.
Okay.
It's just like saying,
He's
especially when he
sneaky.
was non-verbal before. He's just like saying, "Mama, this will affect you. This will harm you, like I did. You may choke
Interesting.
because he had a choking experience when he was younger."
Yeah,
Being
choking.
protective.
Yes,
He's
How
being
did he get
protective.
even it
Just
was very
eating.
no, it's a soft food, but they I think because I'm still investigating, probably he has some issues with his swallowing.
Okay.
Even his school, they said he was just eating like banana. It was very soft. How come
How could he choke
he's
on a
choking?
banana?
He's not maybe choking. It's because he
It
doesn't
just
like the
went
texture,
wrong way, maybe. I don't know.
or maybe he doesn't just like the texture, and he was gagging and trying to bring it
Okay,
out.
It's that bad.
So and then he had a bad experience. So whenever he see me eat that particular texture, he would pull me out of the dining table. So rehearsals would be, for example, he prepared food with me. He should be, if the picky eater need to be exposed to that food item for 15 times, 10 to 15 times, extreme picky eaters, and in psychology they call them anxious eaters, they must be exposed at least 25 to 35 times. 35 times to that food item, and you see how many food items do you have. The list is so huge.
So you've had this issue with your son for how long now so far?
Now we're struggling for 2 years.
For 2 years. Have you seen improvements in those
Yes.
2 years?
Yes.
And in what form of
After
improvements?
the desensitization, the sessions with the occupational therapist, the sensory bins that I create for him,
What changed for him? Like, what
he
can he
became
now
more
do?
adventurous.
More adventurous?
In order to try not
Okay.
new food, new snacks. That's
New
the beginning.
Okay. Snack.
That's the beginning.
Good start.
Because the snacks has multiple texture in one snack. For example, there was a cake where there is a marshmallow in the middle. Before he used to feel disgusted from touching the marshmallow. Okay, and now he can eat that cake. It's spongy on top and at the end, and then in the middle it has a spongy marshmallow texture.
Seems like he has
Coated
irrational
with
fears from these textures.
exactly.
Yeah.
So coated with
Sugar,
chocolate,
chocolate.
which is soft and smooth. So you see how many different touches is also the tactile feeling. So you have three different things going on in one pie. Okay, so he would be adventurous more in order to try it. So here we're a little bit away from the sensitivity. We're actually improving here a little bit. So since he's a little bit adventurous, here I can introduce food a little bit. And one more thing, I need to put his safe food. There is something called safe food. It depends from one child to another. It's individual. For example, he likes his yogurt to be around him. For example, I would always put his yogurt, specific brand. I'll just leave it there.
What if you just
Next to his
take off
meal.
the yogurt that's inside and put a different brand inside the same way?
He would know.
He would know.
Yes.
I mean, you would know.
Even
from
not
the side.
really.
No, you would
If
know.
it tastes
From
the same.
site.
What if it tastes the same?
No
No,
brand
no.
tastes the same.
No brand tastes
No,
the
no. All brands are different. That's what makes them special.
If it was up to him, what would he be eating every time? Chicken nuggets? That's it?
Maybe chicken nugget,
Uh-huh.
maybe just yogurt, maybe just go back to formula. There was one
He
child
loves formula that much.
because we're not able the consequences now. We're not weaning him from his formula.
Is he still on formula?
Exactly,
Oh,
because
wow.
if I wean him too soon and he's not able to eat a good
He won't
variety
be
of
eating
food,
anything,
exactly.
yeah.
Because I saw when I'm scared, of course, because as a mother, I'm not only as a professional. I know that we should work on it more,
Right,
but as a
right.
mother, I'm really scared because I saw one case, one patient with him took a session with him. The reason why he was there on the session is because he literally stopped eating at age of 4 years. I think he
Just
stopped eating,
eating?
just drinking.
Liquids only.
Liquid formula, and that's it. And then all of a
Probably
sudden
hates
one
soups.
day, all of a sudden one day he collapsed. He
Oh.
just fell down. He cannot walk anymore due to the deficiencies in his minerals and vitamins.
That is risky.
And
that
they
is
had
very
to
risky.
tube feed him.
Tube feed him.
Exactly, for some time in
basically
order to
force
get
feeding him.
strong. No, not force feeding, but in order to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
So for certain for certain time, and then after that certain period of time, and then after that, we started introducing the food gradually. So we don't want to reach up to that point. So please, again, I advise parent if their kid stop eating, or which is something that he does every single day in the school. It's been 2 years now. He scratches his face every single time they go on a meal to eat with his friends. I have a photo for him. They were on a picnic. All kids were eating on the table. He's the only child who's giving them his back, okay, trying to play with anything. And he came back home that day hungry because he didn't eat anything. He didn't like anything.
At least he acknowledges
Was
hunger.
offered. Yeah,
Okay.
he feels hungry, but how would you know that? Because that's one of the signs as well. His feeling doesn't match his reaction. For example, when he's hungry or he wants to go to bed to sleep, he used to walk on the sofas and try and scream and run and laugh. So here I know there's something wrong. But so his feeling doesn't match. He doesn't say, I want to go to sleep. I feel sleepy or cranky, or he would cry like any other child. No, he would do something else. At some point, I felt like I was really worried. Maybe he's on the spectrum because he's only into cars and round wheels. He wouldn't be responsive. And then turned out that there were fluids in his ears.
Fluids.
Yeah, until we did he did the operation and they removed the fluids. Here he started to listen and to react, and he can respond
So
with me.
child behavior could mean they have specific diseases and we don't notice that.
Exactly.
We usually just say they're being kids, you know.
That's
Just
a
assuming,
misconception.
there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
being a kid.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the reason why please do not blame mothers for being overprotective or they're exaggerating. Because I was blamed, for example, you're exaggerating because he's the only child, because he's the eldest. That's why it's okay. They later on he will grow out of
It's
it.
just spoiled.
Exactly, you're spoiling him. Oh, please bring another one, and you find out that he will
Get
get.
another
Yeah,
one.
get another kid.
That's the reason why you shouldn't listen to someone who's not professional, because my gut feeling says there's something wrong. You know, the gate to any child's word would be through their mouth. They will start exploring, they will start playing with their food. And one thing also happened with my child when he was very young. He did not have the, he wasn't very interested in playing with food. He used to touch it with his fingers. He touched anything of his food with only maybe 2 or 3 fingers, and that's it. And then he'll feel disgusted. Please, Mama, wash my hand. He would give me that gesture, or just wash my hand. I don't want to continue anymore. He doesn't want to explore food. Whereas normal kids, usually, who doesn't have any issues, would explore, would put anything literally in their mouth. Anything. They would like to explore. That's how they explore their word, through their mouth. But when they avoid it, that's also another red flag.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have one last question. How do you, recognize between your kids having specific preference in food and actually being picky eater? Maybe he just doesn't like that group of food.
Yes, you will notice they're not much. For example, it's normal that kids they won't like broccoli. To be honest,
Broccoli,
it's
nobody
intense.
likes broccoli.
Yeah, or peas, for example. It's intense, you know. If they don't prefer it, it's okay. No worries. You just make sure that you offer that food in a very small quantity, not very intimidating. You just put it on their plate,
Like a
for
side
example,
dish.
or on a side
Yeah.
dish. Just make sure that they're exposed to different kinds of food.
Food groups.
Okay, because what happens when we eliminate it from their diet, what will happen? We're actually participating in their pickiness. We're
Okay.
participating in it. We're actually trying to we're actually.
So make sure he tries
accidentally-
everything.
Yeah, accidentally we're trying to feed it. Okay, it will grow even worse. So what should we do? We always do rehearsals. We give them the chance in order to help us in the kitchen, for example, prepare the dining table, to be there around us. We go see specialists. We go see therapists as well. Seriously, I need the support. I need to be there with mothers who been through the same thing with me.
Share experiences and
Exactly,
whatnot,
to share
too.
the experience. We need, I hope now a psychologist sees us in order to work with me, in
Right.
order to find a support system
Absolutely.
for those who suffer with their anxious eaters.
It's true. I think support groups
Yeah.
or moms would be an amazing
And
idea.
I'd like to thank you for coming on the show
Yeah.
to spread awareness about this topic and to educate people on picky eating and to notice those small behaviors in children.
You're welcome.
So
Thank you
Yeah.
for being with us. That was quite incredible.
I had so
You're a
much
good
fun
mom.
with you, but I hope we raise awareness. Please, my message to other mothers: do not normalize it. Do not encourage on normalizing it if someone complains to you. Always advise a parent to go to see specialists like occupational therapist or speech and language therapist, or maybe the pediatric. That's the start point where you should go to a pediatrician.
All
amazing.
right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back for the wrap up.
So this is the end of our episode for today with the Untold, and I think she gave a really powerful message to
Yeah.
moms and parents, because most parents ignore that, and you would notice some adults like in our
Yeah,
age,
they just assume it'll go away.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
then
a small phase.
it will grow with
It
them
will
even
grow,
worse.
yeah.
And just don't think about it when it comes to food. I mean, I think it also happens with
Behaviors, just
behavior,
any kind of
personality
behavior,
disorders.
personality, yeah.
And parents just go like, it's just being a kid. He'll grow out of
And
it.
it's very difficult to notice at the beginning stage where the problem is. So it's
Especially
very
if you're not
inter-
really educated when it comes to
Yeah,
that.
so it's very important to pay attention to all types of behaviors your children are conducting and to seek the professional help
True.
rather than asking your mom, aunts, and all that.
And I
stuff,
think
you know?
it would be the wrong idea to ask your mom and aunts because they are
Yeah,
following
they had
the
different
old ways.
experiences. They might not have not had this situation before.
Or they did, but they like dealt with it
Yeah,
differently.
they dealt different times, different,
Not just different times. I mean, look at the faults in yourself.
Mm.
It's the result of the parents not noticing those small little.
You're getting
things.
too deep right now.
I am.
Way too deep. All right, that's all for
right.
tonight's episode of The Untold. Tune in next time for more.
Good night.